This narrated PowerPoint slideshow is designed to take you through the basics of in-text citations for the APA citation style. Always check with your instructor to see if he or she has other requirements or other guidelines for citations and follow those. First, we need to understand why citations are so important. When writing in an academic environment or in a professional setting, it is a requirement to include proper citations every time we use material from another source. Not only are citations required when we quote full sentences or phrases word for word, but also when we paraphrase the words of another author or when summarizing someone else's work. In-text citations are important because they immediately alert your reader that a sentence includes information or text from another source. People working in an academic and professional setting will expect consistent citations to help them identify what information or text is yours and what information or text is from another source. When you quote, paraphrase, summarize, or reference another author's work, you have to strike a balance between two voices. When you make reference to, summarize, or paraphrase another source, you will be using all your own words. When you quote another source word for word, you will include the other author's words in quotation marks. In all cases, whether using direct quotes or not, you must use an in-text citation to show that this information has come from another source. When quoting material, you must always introduce it using your own words. This first example is called a dropped quote or an unframed quote. It needs to be introduced in your own words. Remember that citation requires two voices, and one of those needs to be your own. This second example properly introduces or frames the quote. There are many ways to introduce a quote, such as, Thomas noted that, according to Thomas, or one thing that Thomas reminded us about language is that. The stronger job you do to introduce a quote, the stronger your writing will be. It is also possible to introduce a quote without mentioning the name of the author. This slide presentation will cover both citations that mention the author's name in the sentence and those that do not. Any sentence that includes reference to another source can be broken down into two main components and 5 elements. The first component is the cited material. This includes the writer's own words and the quoted or paraphrased material. Strong writers will combine their own words with well-selected quotes and succinctly paraphrased material. The second component is the actual citation, which includes the last 3 elements: the author's name, the year of publication, and the page reference. These last 3 elements may be placed in different parts of the sentence depending on how it is structured. In each sentence, where material from another source is quoted directly, you will find these 5 elements. If you paraphrase, you will only use the author's name and the year of publication. This slide presentation will include 2 basic citation styles. The first style is citations with the author's name in the sentence itself. This includes Thomas says or according to Cottrell. The second style is citations with the author's name in the sentence. In these cases, the author's name will appear in the in-text citation. It is important for you to master both of these styles and how to include proper citations in both situations. Strong writers use a variety of techniques. A reader can quickly get bored reading, Johnson said, Nakayama said, Harris said, White said. Variety will strengthen your writing. Read the following 3 sentences, which all cite material from another source. Note that all 3 of these sentences include the name of the author being cited. It is not required to mention the author's name in the sentence, but it is common. We will cover citations without the author's name later in this presentation. In the example, Andre Lefebvre noted that, quote, texts that are not translated do not live on, end quote. The writer is following this simple formula. Author's name plus a reporting verb, here noted, followed by the quoted material. So in this sentence, we have 5 elements. The author's name, the writer's text, which here includes a reporting verb, and the quoted text. Note how the quoted material has a quotation mark at both the beginning and the end. To finish, we must complete the full APA citation. We already have the author's name in the sentence. Now we must add the year of the publication after the author's name, and then the page reference after the quoted material. A strong way to cite another source is to mix your own writing with the quoted author's writing. In this example, Andre Lefebvre cited both Pound and Benjamin, calling the translator, quote, the giver of life, because, quote, texts that are not translated do not live on. The writer combines a summary of Lefebvre's writing with 2 pieces of quoted text. As we saw in the last example, there are 5 elements here. The author's name, the writer's summary, and the quoted text. Here we have 2 short pieces of quoted text in the same sentence. Again, we must complete the full APA citation by adding the year of publication after the author's name, and then the page reference after the quoted material. In this third example, the writer has not quoted any material word for word, but rather has summarized the author being cited. The author's name is still cited in the sentence, followed by the writer's summary, which merges his or her own words with those of the cited author. Even though no words are quoted, we still need an APA citation to acknowledge the ideas of the cited author. This can be done by placing the year of publication after the author's name. But note that no page reference is needed because we have not quoted any material directly. The previous examples all showed cases where the name of the cited author is mentioned in the writer's sentence. But there are many times when we do not put the cited author's name in our sentence. Even without mentioning the cited author's name, we still need a complete citation. Sometimes we will have a direct quote, in quotation marks. Other times we will paraphrase the author in our own words. In both of these cases, we still need a citation. Read the following 2 sentences which cite material from another source. Note that neither of these sentences include the name of the author being cited in the sentence. Instead, the author's name is included in the citation at the end of the quotation or the end of the sentence. In this first example, New York's population was more than 500,000 by 1850, and, quote, 10 years later it was 814,257. The writer has both summarized and quoted information from a source by Graziano. First, we have the writer's summary of information from the source, and then quoted text from the source. As before, we need a full APA citation. The author's name, the year of publication, and the page reference for the cited material. In this second example, by 1850, the population of New York City had surpassed 500,000, and by 1860, it passed 800,000. The writer has summarized the information from a source by Graziano. The entire sentence is a summary in the writer's own words. After citing the source through summary, a full APA citation is needed. This includes the author's name, the year of publication, and there will be no page reference because there is no material that has been quoted directly. It is important to remember that in all cases when you use a source, quoted, summarized, or paraphrased, the APA style requires that the author's name must appear either in your sentence or in your citation, but not both. Also remember that for APA citation that the year of publication always goes right after the author's name, whether that be in the sentence or in the citation. Some citation styles, such as MLA, will require that you include a page reference if you summarize or paraphrase from a source. In APA, you will only include a page reference if you include a direct quotation. You will know that it is a direct quotation because it appears in quotation marks. Let's compare the two styles that we have looked at. We tend to include the cited author's name in the sentence when we credit a specific term or particular idea to that author to show that another author agrees with our argument. This also helps support our argument. And in cases where we plan to evaluate or present a counter-argument to the cited author. In cases where we focus on facts, statistics, or events, rather than opinions and perspectives, and when the cited author's name has recently been mentioned in a previous sentence, then the author's name will often appear in the citation rather than in the sentence itself. Another important issue is punctuation. This slide highlights some of the issues to double check. First, if you have quoted text, that is, word for word, you need open and close quotes before and after the quoted text. Second, your in-text citation requires open and close parentheses. Third, the punctuation for the sentence, usually a period, goes after the page citation and not before. Remember that the citation is part of the same sentence. Fourth, notice that the commas go after the author's name and after the year of publication in the citation. Fifth, notice where there are spaces. And lastly, note that the abbreviation for page is lowercase p period, and for pages, plural, is lowercase pp period. When the cited author's name is in the sentence, the punctuation will slightly differ. First, your quoted text goes in the quotation marks. Second, the year placed after the author's name and the page reference placed after the cited material both need to be in parentheses. Third, remember that the end punctuation goes after the page citation. Remember that the citation is part of the sentence. Fourth, notice where there are spaces. And again, note the proper abbreviations for page and pages. Some books or articles have two authors. When you mention two authors in your sentence, use the word "and" between their names. Don't forget the year of publication after their names, and if you have quoted material, include the page reference after your quotation. Notice how in this example, there is text in square brackets. Square brackets are used when the writer changes any words in the quoted text. If the author's names appear in the in-text citation, place an ampersand between their last names in the citation. In cases where there are 3, 4, or 5 authors of the same article, list each author's name the first time you cite their source. Don't forget the word and a comma after the second to last author's name. In all subsequent mentions, use only the first author's name followed by et al., and don't forget the period after et al. If the author's names are not mentioned in your sentence, then include each author's name in the parenthetical citation. This time you will use an ampersand often referred to as the and sign, in place of the word and. In all subsequent citations, use the first author's name followed by et al., period. If an article has 6 or more authors, only list the first author's name followed by et al. This is the case when the authors are mentioned in the main sentence or in the parenthetical citation. It is also the same whether it is the first time or second time these authors are referenced. Don't forget the period after et al. Here are a few rules to help you remember the basics. First, remember that every sentence that includes information from a consulted source requires a full citation with the author's name and the year of publication. Second, remember that the year of publication always comes right after the author's name, which may be in the sentence itself or in the citation at the end of the sentence. And finally, remember that the page reference comes after the quoted text or at the end of the sentence. For more information on APA citations and for information on how to deal with special cases, here's some additional resources. You can also check the website for the Academic Resource Center at Webster University for more resources on academic writing or to seek assistance from the ARC staff.